of your expectations. Maybe
I don't have a smartphone either. It's okay.
can you underwhelm something?
Yes. I think underwhelm is actually in the dictionary.
It's not just not overwhelmed. What? I'm just being disappointed time after time tonight.
Hey, Daniel, does this look familiar?
Time after time. From the island?
No.
What are you giving
From
me
your
credit for?
dining room table.
Oh,
Only the real version.
I don't know. What is it?
It's a big rock formation with what looks like a heart in it.
Oh.
But it looks like the one on your dining room table to me.
Probably a Chernobog in there.
Oh, gosh.
Oh,
Hey, everybody. We are just getting started here.
Are we live?
what?
Shush, it was a terrible accent. Don't call it out. Are we live?
Yep, we are live. It
Going
says.
live.
You guys post a
Oh.
video as well?
No, just YouTube. Okay, got that. I need sound clips.
Oh, little
We're like a super healthy sounding bunch.
I know. Everybody do your cough. Get your coughs out.
I know, that's what I just did. I was like, hey, I need a Kleenex. Daniel's going to yell at me.
Get your sniffles.
I'm just
Your
kidding. Daniel would
sneezies.
never yell.
Daniel would never yell.
Lel?
He would lel.
He'll never
would get-
lel.
He gets quieter.
Does
I
he? Is that on
LOL like
purpose?
this.
He does.
What?
Actually, I don't type LOL unless I actually mean it. If I didn't actually LOL, then I type haha.
That's what I do.
He's very principled
Awesome.
in that way.
Oh my gosh. I have to remember how to podcast, guys.
I'm pretty sure I LOL lowercase, and if I actually did, I think I uppercase.
Okay, start your
Okay.
recording with
Oh, yeah.
Audacity.
With a clap.
Not yet.
Doesn't Jeremy need to be quiet?
Yes, he does.
Well, I was waiting for the clap.
And
If I click the hashtag of past and present in our document, then it will only bring up the past and present scene, so I don't have to scroll back and forth, right?
right.
Okay.
Have you never done it that way?
It's been a while, guys. We haven't podcast since December.
Oh, I forgot you only belong in my left ear.
Yeah.
You
Okay.
just let me know when I'm for really starting now.
Yes,
yeah?
go ahead and
Am I-
start your recording.
Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Okay. And gotta turn off the heaters. And
Who
Henry,
sniffled?
just keep in mind
Mhm.
the microphone will pick you up if you make a noise. So
I'll be quiet.
He means literally. If you make a sound, it will pick
Pick
you
you.
up and throw you that way, which makes more noise, and it just continues.
Like one time my computer fan was on, and Daniel knew.
Right. We forgot water.
I have water. Do you
Okay.
want some?
here we go.
Yes, please. We may have to take a water break.
Do you desperately need it before we start?
Well,
You don't know if you requested.
not desperately, but I'm sure I'll get dry.
Especially with the heater off. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's torturous. Oh my
All right,
goodness. okay,
everybody,
we're-
thank you for joining us. I gotta get chat room up here and silence my apps that are going to make noise, but otherwise we are ready to go. And gonna mention that and that and that. Okay. Three, two, one. You're listening to Once, episode 181, Darkness on the Edge of Town. welcome back to another episode of Once, the unofficial podcast for ABC's TV show Once Upon a Time. I'm Daniel J. Lewis.
I'm Jeremy Laughlin.
I'm Erin.
We're happy to have you joining us. Thank you very much for your support in the podcast awards. I'll tell you more about that in a moment, but we're nominated in the finalists for Best Produced. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'll tell you more about that later, but you can go to oncepodcast.com/podcast awards to get the spoilers. Now, we have rewatched and prepared a lot to discuss here with this episode, Darkness on the Edge of Town. But before we talk about that, Erin, did you get to see the special that was before the episode on Sunday?
I did not. Unfortunately, I just decided that it might be like all the other specials that they had aired and decided I was not going to be able to watch it.
You know, I thought that too. So I initially didn't watch it. Jeremy and I didn't watch it on Sunday, but I have watched it since then. And we'll have a link in the show notes at oncepodcast.com/181 if you want to watch it. And if your local cable internet provider or whatever internet provider you have lets you watch it. It was a great special. It had a lot of behind the scenes stuff. It was called Secrets of Storybrooke, and it was really cool. It presented all of this background information. It was narrated by Jennifer Morrison. It had awesome things going on in it and cool little background stories. Like one of the little tidbits that we got from it is that even the cast of Once Upon a Time in the first season, they thought the curse wouldn't be broken until the end of the series.
That's awesome.
Just like
Really?
we thought, yeah. So it was a little bit of a surprise to them when they get the scripts for the last few episodes and they see, what? The curse is broken. So that was cool. And some of the other things. So if you can watch it, definitely watch it. It has a lot of great behind the scenes stuff. I really do agree. This is the best behind the scenes special that they've made thus far before showing us the episode on TV. So check that out. It's called Secrets of Storybrooke. I would guess it'll be on the DVDs and Blu-rays when those are available later this year. And when they are, you can purchase them from oncepodcast.com/season4. Or we'll have links eventually in the show notes for the episodes that we do. But let's discuss this episode, Darkness on the Edge of Town, starting with the past that we see as everyone is summoned to the Forbidden Fortress. And the first thing that I like to think about whenever we see the past is, where does this fit in the timeline? I think when we see many years ago, that's a hint that,
It's in the past.
well, that this happened probably before the Snow White and Charming story began.
Yeah.
So
Or-
everything we see here, I think, was before Belle with Rumple, before maybe the whole Sleeping Beauty and Maleficent thing. So maybe that's why Maleficent is all Angelina Jolie still. Because maybe she changed to what we see in season 1 after the whole Sleeping Beauty thing happens.
Please note, they are not calling her Maleficent in Once Upon a Time. They are calling her Maleficent, and it is
Oh my
driving me
gosh.
crazy.
I know.
It is Maleficent. They just brought out a movie about it.
Yeah, they also spelled Rumpelstiltskin differently.
Oh.
Rumpelstiltskin is supposed to be
Yeah.
P-E-L, but they spell it like an American would spell it. It's P-L-E. Yeah. They're Americanizing things, I guess.
Or maybe they're just not allowed to use the spelling. I don't know. But what confused me about where you put it in the timeline is just that Cruella, we've already had like that interaction with Cruella when Rumple was with Belle. I guess that's after this, but sorry. For some reason, I thought that that wouldn't work with the timeline, but I
Well,
think
and I think that interaction that they had, it helps give more light to this, that is what we're referring to is just before this, the episode before this, when Belle was led to that edge of the cliff from Neverland, and all of the props people will get that. And when Rumple then interacted with the Queens of Darkness there, the stuff that they were referring to that happened before is this that we got to see today. I don't think Rumple has interacted with these 3 Queens of Darkness at all since these events.
okay, that makes more sense then.
Which also leads a little more in the direction of understanding why Rumple had to get Prince Charming to put that egg with the true love potion in it inside of Dragon Maleficent.
Dragon
Because
Maleficent.
Rumple wouldn't be welcome in that castle, and he couldn't just go in and say, "Hey, Maleficent, would you swallow this?"
That's true. 'Cause he kind of did the villain thing today in this episode.
Oh yeah.
I was a little disappointed that Cruella did not have Dalmatians. She had, I don't even know what those dogs were, Rottweilers?
Yeah,
I think you're right.
which are German, I think, a German breed, and she seems German-esque,
German,
maybe.
British.
Yeah.
But she can't be from fictional London because she's all magical.
Well, maybe she took a hiatus in fictional London in the backstory we might get later. I don't know. I expected Dalmatians for Cruella de Vil.
Right. Well, she wears those.
True. Yeah, they're not house pets.
What do you suppose compelled Ursula to come when summoned if she had been eluding basically all living things as far as we know, because no one had seen her for thousands of years?
Yeah.
And I feel like you can't stay that hidden if some unknown entity summons you and you just come running.
Unless you're just hanging out being a golden statue on someone's dancing area, a la Ariel.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's
I'm
a good
sh-
point.
I'm sure Rumpelstiltskin pretending to be somebody else can be very convincing.
It reminds me of the old movie Clue, where they're all summoned and they don't know really who summoned them or who is the main bad guy who's holding them all ransom and or blackmailing them and all of that. I think from this episode, we get the setup for what the whole rest of this story arc will be.
We're villains. And it's time the villains got their happy endings.
So this, I would dub this story arc for this half of the season, the villains get their happy endings too season.
Well, which season hasn't been that?
True.
Well, it's been a lot, not so much about getting their happy endings, but about redemption. That's what the other villains have been discovering, like Hook and Regina have been redeemed, or they've been working to redeem themselves, and it is a constant struggle to overcome their failures and their problems. But I think with Rumple and these Queens of Darkness, I think that their goal is to remain villains and still get their happy endings.
Yeah.
Like Regina is pursuing her happy ending after working on redemption.
Right.
They've got it the other way around. They're doing this fake redemption thing.
Right.
And then it's like they want to steal their happy. Really, I think that's basically what they want to do is steal happy endings.
Well, that's what Regina started out doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only happy ending will be mine.
Well, and she also said, I was always just the queen before. It's you who added evil. So it's like they don't think they're evil in their own mind. And so they think they actually deserve happiness. So it's a weird discourse that's happening because that's always kind of been the show. Like evil isn't born, it's made. Oh, but is it really evil is kind of the question now. Like it's not a question to us, but it's to
Right.
them. Like Rumpelstiltskin does not seem to think that there's anything wrong with his actions over and over and over again. So he thinks that he deserves happiness. And that's what he's kind of going for. And that has been a recurring theme in the show. I typed, oh, so now suddenly when Henry's looking for the author of the book, the villains are on the same page, but then I remember a line from season 1 where Regina said, like, this is my happy ending. So that's kind of always been what they've been striving for.
Right.
Yeah, that is true. When they met inside of Maleficent's little grand hall there, which is the same hall where where the evil queen had come to talk to Maleficent when she stole the dark curse from Maleficent, that whole thing. That's the same hall there. But it was revealed that each of them have a secret. And it's not just they want their happy endings. Rumple knows what their secrets are. I think that the backstories and flashbacks that we're going to see over the course of the next 10 episodes are going to be showing us what those things are that each of them want.
Yeah, I liked that. That was a good fish hook. Like, I want to know now.
Fish hook,
I don't know.
a dragon claw.
Oh, I just got that, Jeremy. That was, yeah. I really want to know what they want, because every villain has wanted kind of the same thing, but you know, a little bit different because of their backstory. So I'm curious. I want to know. Tell me now.
They just want everything.
I'll give you a Kitsis and Horowitz answer. Well, you'll just have to keep watching and see.
Maybe season 7.
I'd be really disappointed if we didn't find out the answer to that.
You know what? I'm still disappointed about some of the things they've said that too. So,
Right.
yep. Secrets. Welcome to Once Upon a Time.
You dying over there, Jeremy?
Mute me. I started to realize this wasn't sustainable because I was trying to avoid saying words, and this is an audio podcast.
Oh man.
This is the most congested I've been in a while is tonight right now.
Oh, I thought the water went down the wrong tube. Because you had that look like...
No, the water came just in time. I started getting really... I was starting to talk, and I'm like, that's not my voice.
Did Jenny bring you guys water?
Is that
She
my
did.
voice?
Is that my voice? Sorry, I may have to pause and cough once in a while, but I'm good now.
Okay.
We're good here.
Okay, so I was kind of wanting to throw it to you, Jeremy, since
Oh,
I see
okay.
you have points under this.
Points.
Under
Where
meeting-
are we?
Meeting
We're under
in Mal's Hall.
house.
Okay.
Oh, hall.
Matt, how did we skip like New York and Storybrooke?
That's present. We're still on past.
Crap. I forgot to
there's-
push the thing. Okay, sorry. Now I'm on track.
We're going to put the thing on the thing.
Apparently 11 weeks is just long enough to be like, what am I doing?
That's why I asked you about pressing the hashtag.
I know, and you said it, and I didn't do it. I'm thrown off because I'm not on my computer. Anyway, all right, we're good here.
Okay. Whenever you're ready.
The throat and the notes are now clear. I wondered why I couldn't track with you all of a sudden. Exchanges. So, okay, cool. You just want me to start?
Mhm.
Okay. I think the exchanges between Rumple and Cruella are officially my favorite part of the story arc so far.
Oh, really?
That's just their particular dialogue. Like, he's bantering with everybody, but with her, it's sort of
It's really good.
unique and witty in general.
Yeah, that is true.
Although she did shake her head very hard, and that was not my favorite moment when she was getting in his face. But everything else.
There was a lot of witty dialogue tonight in this episode.
Yeah, Regina coming out with her little cliches or puns. Let's clip that bat's wings and other stuff. I think that they cast Cruella perfectly. I know I said this a couple episodes of the podcast ago, but it's been a while. She looks like Cruella should look.
Yeah.
Perfect. For this part, I mean, like not like she looks perfect, but she's perfect for the part.
Perfect. Those eyebrows.
When they go to steal the dark curse is a big highlight for me, because whenever we deal with things that tie back in with actual season 1 story or like the premise of this whole series, when we tie back in with those things, that's when I tend to get excited, because it reminds me of our origins with this story and how this
Our
whole
origins.
series started.
Yeah.
You know, going after the dark curse. And I want to know more about the dark curse. And also I want to know more about the book, the author of the book. So those two things are really cool. I have a feeling this might be the only time we get to see anything more about the dark curse for
Well,
this season.
Well, it depends on who wrote it and if they decide to go into that this year.
Because that was a pretty big revelation for us, right? Like we didn't know until this episode. I didn't know until this episode that the dark curse didn't originate with Rumpel.
I think
They
there
all called
was,
it his curse, right?
well, there was at one point when he was angry with Blue Fairy back when Bay went through the beanhole. I do remember him saying something like, I will search for something. I'll find a curse. Something like that, where he's basically saying, I'll not create one, I'll find one.
Right.
And I think there was some other dialogue somewhere, I can't remember when, where he did say something about finding, not inventing.
Yeah, the details are foggy with me at the moment, but I didn't feel that was. I feel like we've questioned who wrote it before, at the very least.
And here's a kind of way to look at the words is, if I follow a recipe and make a cake, I created that cake, but I didn't invent that cake. Someone else invented the recipe for that cake. I'm the one that created the cake from the recipe.
Or souffles. The souffle isn't the souffle. The souffle is the recipe.
Yes. But this Bald Mountain thing, I watched this part of Fantasia from the 1940 version, and Night at Bald Mountain is, for one thing, it's a musical piece by a Russian guy whose name I will not try to pronounce.
Thank you.
And Night at Bald Mountain was the freakiest part of Fantasia. I mean, like, it's so weird and freaky. I would almost say, don't let your kids watch that part of Fantasia. It's weird.
It's too weird and freaky for your kids.
Like, it's,
Was there a giant glowy-eyed winged beast thing in
yes, he
Oh.
was the top of Bald Mountain, and that's Chernobog. And it's spelled in different ways too, which is actually a Slavic deity. And Chernobog is this creature in Fantasia that looks just like we see him in Once Upon a Time. And he's at the top of this mountain, Bald Mountain. And what happens at night, and apparently this happens every night at Bald Mountain, is that all of the dead souls from the city at the foot of the mountain come up to the top of the mountain, and there's dancing, there's squashing and fire and odd pits of fire, very similar to what we see here in Once Upon a Time. All of this, I mean, not the dancing part, but the pits of fire. All of this stuff happening, and then there's some sound which signals day is coming, and then that's when all the dead go back to their homes, and when Chernobog is like, oh, really? Do I have to? And then he goes back to the mountaintop and becomes the mountaintop. It's a
grief.
really weird part of Fantasia.
Makes you never want to climb a mountain. At least not all the way.
So there goes that nun's advice. Sound of Music.
But
Every time they talk about what Chernobog does, they're so specific. And I think it's almost like too much of a stretch because of how specific they're having to be. Not that it seeks out the darkest soul,
Oh.
but it,
yeah.
I quote, seeks out the heart with the greatest potential for darkness. Huh?
It's
Wow.
yeah, I mean it makes sense. What's too specific about it?
It's, to me, it's specific because of where I think they're going to take the storyline. But because it's
Yeah.
not the darkest heart, it's whoever could be the darkest heart if they so chose to be.
Realistically, that can be anyone. We all have the potential to be the darkest, most evil person ever.
Do we?
I think so. I mean, the potential. Like, we could. We're a few decisions away from doing horrible, wicked, disastrous things.
But equal potential.
Yeah, is it equal? Yeah.
yeah, equal. Yeah.
And
Like,
it's
what
going
makes-
on.
Semantics.
What makes two identical people who went through two identical circumstances and one turns totally dark and one turns into a saint? Like what makes them equal from the beginning? Maybe there is something that makes them, right, go the other way.
In a way, and or that influences their decisions, because I think it does come down to personal decisions. And I think that's what we're going to see here in Once Upon a Time, is that, as we know, Emma is the one apparently with the heart with the greatest potential for darkness. is that makes me think she's going to face a lot of decisions in this season to potentially go dark, or she might even start, to borrow the phrase, flirt with the darkness a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a one scene prediction. At some point, this is probably not accurate, but Emma's heart could be removed, probably only by herself, given what we've seen,
Yeah.
and it's completely black. You know, not now, but by the end of the season,
Yeah, we never have seen her heart.
No.
which is
Just
rare for a
seen-
character on Once Upon a Time.
We've just seen her Care Bear stare the most evil person away from her heart.
I mean, how strange is it that as we start to talk about various characters' hearts, I can picture them. Henry, Snow, Regina,
Hook.
right? Yeah, his was nothing special. I don't remember that one.
It was kind of cool to see the three witches work together. And although Maleficent thought for a moment that they were going to abandon her, they didn't. They really had more honor than Rumpelstiltskin, even though they are the queens of darkness.
That's true. So you call them witches, but they aren't really all witches, are they?
Are they even really queens?
Well, they're definitely not queens, except in their own mind. Maybe Ursula, but not really. What is she queen of? Well,
The
apparently
sea.
the sea. I
Well,
don't
she
know.
is known as the sea. Well, she's known as the sea witch.
She is.
And I think somewhere else she might have also been called the queen. No, I might be mixing that up with different stories. But Maleficent has this castle, Forbidden Fortress, but just because she has a castle doesn't mean she's a queen. In the Disney story, Maleficent was a fairy, not a queen, just an evil fairy.
Oh, true.
And really, in the basic story of Sleeping Beauty, Maleficent was not a queen, if I remember correctly.
Nope.
She was just Maleficent.
Yeah. And
She
then
was-
we have
Misguided.
Cruella de Vil, whom we don't know why is she even in the Enchanted Forest?
Why is she magical? Why does she
Yeah.
have that green breath?
Yeah.
But by the way, that girl should totally do commercials for Terminix.
Oh yeah.
That's kind of what it looked like.
I think I'm the most interested in Cruella's backstory because it is the one that is likely going to stray the furthest from what we know of the Disney movie.
Right.
Because A, she's already magical, B, she's not in London or fictional London, and as of yet, she's not hanging out with Dalmatians.
I can't wait to see her meet Pongo.
Oh, that probably will happen because they've got to do that.
Yeah.
Pongo
Pongo's
is
gonna
in town.
freak out and
Can we assume they have history?
What if all of this time Pongo is actually someone that Cruella de Vil cursed to be a dog?
She
And
seems to
we
have,
get to see Pongo turned into a person in this.
she seems to
park.
be able to influence the weak minds of animals and other non-humanoid creatures. I don't think she can curse anything. I'm assuming. She just kind of has that bad breath that makes animals do what she wants. Or maybe it's good breath. I don't know.
Speaking of good
see.
breath, I want to thank some people who bring a breath of fresh air to this podcast. Are people who donate very consistently, so consistently that it helps keep the servers running. And yes, we're going to have to throw some more money at the servers to make them run a little bit better because we've been having some issues lately. But special thanks to David Newland, Steve Johnson, Lisa Slack, Tappan Bird, Laura Silva, and Mark Stapleton, and our 11 backers on Patreon. Thank you very much for your kind support. We really could not do this without you. If you'd like to donate to the podcast and have your name immortalized with a very bad segue, as everyone else enjoys, then please go to oncepodcast.com/sponsor. You can donate a one-time donation like Mark did, or you can make a monthly donation like several of these others do, or you can do a per episode donation through Patreon. Whichever way works best for you, any amount can really help us a lot. So please go over to oncepodcast.com/sponsor. There's something else too that we want you to check out. another thing that you could support that gives you something really awesome. Erin, tell us about what that is.
So as you guys know, hopefully, I help run Ugly Ducklings Inc. And that is like Jennifer Morrison kind of inspired that. But we're currently doing a charity drive, and Jennifer Morrison autographed a bunch of things for us. So we're doing a raffle for that. And all the funds go to support Mental Fitness Inc., which is a really amazing charity in the States that educates kids in schools about like body image and self-esteem and healthy coping mechanisms, eating disorders, and just being healthy in your body and your mind. So if you go to uglyducklingsinc.com, you can just read it's the top blog right now all about the prizes. There's like an autographed pirate ugly duckling rubber duck thing and an autographed New York City rubber ducky and some of the magazines and some bracelets and stuff that are all autographed that Jennifer Morrison did for us. So we're really excited, and yeah, hopefully people can support.
That is awesome. You've got several different ticket prices that are very affordable, and also different ways that people can participate in this. That's an awesome little thing that you're doing. So we'll have a direct link to that, specifically to this post in case it gets lost among other blog posts and such. But we'll have a link to that in the show notes for this episode at oncepodcast.com/181. And if you're trying to decide, what should I do? Support this awesome podcast that I really love? Or should I support Ugly Ducklings, or as it's been previously known as Uckly Ducklings? Then, hey, put your money over at Ugly Ducklings and support them. And I'll tell you about a free way that you can support the podcast
Put
later
your money
on.
where their beak is.
Yeah. Oh, that should be their slogan. Thank you, Erin. What you're doing there is really awesome. I think a very important thing, especially in today's age. And we really appreciate, I'm speaking for the world now, we really appreciate what you're doing there with Ugly Ducklings Inc.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
So check that out at uglyducklingsinc.com, and that's INC, by the way. Or in the show notes, we'll have a direct link to that at oncepodcast.com/181. So now let's talk about the present. We've got two things going on in the present: the story as it's happening in Storybrooke and as it's happening like everywhere else. I like this little montage that they gave us at the beginning that just kind of reminds us of where we were, what's changed in the last 6 weeks, like the fact that Regina is now mayor again, and Mary Margaret is back to teaching with birds. Cue the classic,
Right.
Remember, you're building a home, not a cage reference.
Well, I liked that the whole theme of that scene was the passing of time in Storybrooke, and they started it with the first signal we ever had that time was even moving in Storybrooke, which was the clock moving from 8:15 to 8:16.
Yeah, that was cute. I really liked the montage because I watched them film it when I was in BC, and it took hours for them to film that montage, all the outdoor stuff, and then it was 30 seconds of the episode.
Now, you mentioned to us behind the scenes that the longest thing was the school bus part of that montage. Is that right?
That was so long because every single time they had to reshoot that scene, they had to back up the bus, and then they had to clear like the road, and then the bus had to drive up again as Henry and Regina were walking out. And then
What were they doing wrong?
I think it's just different angles and stuff
I
they
see.
had to get. Yeah.
It's amazing.
It was cool. I was not expecting it to just be a montage in silence, the stuff we were watching, because they all had lines that they were saying.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah.
Yeah, the more I learn about video production, because if you haven't heard, the Ramen Noodle, our clean comedy podcast, is going from being an audio show to being a video show. That's what season 4 will all be, as video episodes. So
It's mostly going to be us standing in front of school buses
Yeah.
and not saying anything.
and just doing it over and over and over. But I learn about these certain things and techniques, like you can film an entire movie with one camera. You just have to redo scenes over and over and over again and just position the camera in different places.
Yep.
Yeah.
Then you piece it all together and it looks like you've got cameras all over the place.
Hopefully.
That's why you may notice certain minor differences when there are cuts, like someone may be holding something and then in the next cut they're not. That's because some of that slight inconsistency when you're redoing takes over and over with different cameras or same cameras. But yeah, the montage also showed several of the villains' stores. It's like, why is it the villains seem to have all of these great stores? Any Given Sunday was still there. It's right
Yeah.
next to Granny's. It's closed now. The Meat Chop shop, I couldn't tell whether it was open or closed,
Should be closed.
but
That woman was terrible.
yeah, Bo
Wow,
Peep.
Jeremy.
Well, she was.
Yeah, she presumably still runs it.
I mean, I associate her with a meat cleaver very closely in my mind, and not because she was properly preparing meat. She, yeah.
And also, we saw Gold Shop there closed, obviously. One of the things that I know in a previous episode of the podcast, when the curse of Shattered Sight hit, I mentioned that, hey, who's that black guy dressed in all white there in the middle of the street? It looks like all the waitresses from Granny's Diner are assaulting him. And in this montage, we see that same guy, and he's walking almost like, I think, arm in arm or just right next to one of the waitresses from Granny's Diner. He's probably the chef, one of the chefs from Granny's Diner, and it looks like they're friends again.
Aw.
So I'm guessing they were coworkers, and that's why they were fighting after the curse of Shattered Sight. But all that just from a montage.
And I remember you saying that, and I was like, black, white, and red. And I knew Cruella was coming, and we didn't yet, so I couldn't say anything.
I'd known also that Cruella was coming
As
because,
had I.
yeah, some spoilers are just impossible to avoid as much as we try to.
That's true.
I unfriend people.
Oh,
Morning.
Period.
Morning,
You just
people.
unfriend people.
I unfriend people who post spoilers on my Facebook.
Yeah. One of the places that this montage ended up then is on this board of clues that Herc and Belle are working together to try and figure out how to bring the fairies back and that poor old man who is trapped in the hat. We still have yet to see him
they're
again.
not working to save him. They're just like, whatever.
But there were some really interesting things on that clues board. We'll have some screenshots in the show notes at oncepodcast.com/181. But here are some of the interesting things I saw. Blue Fairies, or Mother Superior's missing person report was there, and it said first name, Rule, last name, Gorm. Rule Gorm.
dumb.
Yeah, age unknown.
Sorry, guys.
There was a sticky note that was near the house where the apprentice was sucked up into the hat. Like the sticky note was near the picture of that house. And the sticky
Right.
note said, get this, records said landlord is Yen Sid? Question mark.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, funny.
Yeah. It was on there. Very, very, it stood out to me. Like when I watched it, I thought, what? Wait, did I see Yen Sid?
Funny.
And some of the other things are, there are a couple sticky notes here and there that say, how did this relate to the original experiment? Huh? What original experiment? Yeah. And there are names on some kind of property search or record search. Peter Lurie and Emilia Lurie. And there's also a note that says the shape of the hat is an interdimensional coil, an accelerator. And then
Good grief.
there's another spot where there's some note that says something about could they reverse the accelerator? And there's a photo in different places. So there are a lot of really cool things on that clues board.
That is pretty cool.
That's kind of what our workflowy document looks like before a podcast.
How does this relate to this scene?
I think their props department has a lot of fun. I think they get given certain Easter eggs they're supposed to give us, and then they just go crazy with being smart Alex.
Yeah. And by the way, Yen Sid, if you don't remember, Yen Sid is the name of the sorcerer in the Sorcerer's Apprentice portion of Disney's Fantasia. And Yen Sid was then the sorcerer that's been used several times through certain Disney properties like video games and such. And I am holding to my idea that the sorcerer that we hear referenced is Yen Sid. But as we'll discuss more later on, the author is apparently someone different. So I have to let go of the idea that Yen Sid is also the author, but Yen Sid is probably the sorcerer.
I think you're probably correct.
And another thing I noticed about this scene, or that I just wanted to note, was that Hook looked and felt and was acting so guilty about what he did, which is nice to see. I'm not saying I agree that he should feel guilty because he was not in control, but it's nice that he is that stressed about it. It kind of really shows how far he's come as a character.
Yeah, that's true. In New York City, I think it was hilarious to see Rumpelstiltskin, Mr. Gold, hanging out like a bachelor in a bathrobe.
Hey, him and Ursula have this whole living the dream thing going on.
Well,
They're sort of
except
scraping
she's
by.
at work. She's at work all day, and he's just,
He just
hanging
hangs out on the internet at home, that magic box.
the magic box.
I think he just uses the microwave all day. But his power extends far beyond ramen noodles.
Yeah, I got several tweets from people like, they mentioned you in Once Upon a Time. Since on Twitter, I'm the Ramen Noodle, and that's the name of our comedy podcast.
So now speakers are enchanted boxes and computers are magic boxes. Everything's some kind of a magic box to them.
Well,
but
when
only
you're from the
sometimes.
Enchanted Forest,
True.
It is cool that all this time he's been working his, quote, magic, unquote, on the internet, posing as an Oxford professor in order to intercept this email, or however he was able to intercept the email from Mary Margaret.
Wait a minute.
Or from Belle, I'm sorry.
So let me get this straight. Rumpelstiltskin, in our world, without magic, give him a little bit of time, and he's basically a troll.
Yeah.
He's eating ramen noodles in his bathrobe in a dumpy apartment in New York, pretending to be someone else on the internet.
Crashing on someone's couch, consuming all of their resources. He's like a teenager. He just needs an Xbox.
yeah. I'm sure he's been playing Minecraft too.
When they go to Great Neck, Long Island, they find Cruella Feinberg, and it looks, my interpretation of what's going on there is that Cruella was with this guy, maybe married to this guy, and the guy she was married to committed some major crime, a lot of theft, because it looked like Cruella was being evicted, and since she said of her coach, no, this was mine before.
Mm-hmm.
So she had that before whatever crimes that gave her all of these possessions.
Right.
That and the car.
Yeah, it was some kind of a strange thing. Like maybe he was a con artist or something like that.
Or maybe she's the con artist, but she framed him.
Oh, maybe.
Maybe. We
Didn't
do
go
know
too
that
well, though.
We do know that she likes to do stuff like that based on the non-animated Disney, the real life action Disney movie of the 101 Dalmatians. She had some guys working for her that ended up taking the heat.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Rumple, I think, answered a little question we've kind of had in our minds.
But there is magic in this world. You just have to know where to look.
So there, maybe he's found some of that magic, and that was what enabled him to do some of the things he's done.
Did he not launch right into talking about Storybrooke from that statement?
Well, that was, leading into,
I think it was his grandiose
Oh,
proposition
okay.
to them of going to Storybrooke.
Okay, yeah, I get. Well, we do know there have been occurrences of magic outside of Storybrooke, like, sorry to remind you guys, the dragon,
Dragon.
Oh, that was season 2.
but also like Emma being able to use her ability to know when someone's lying. That's magic,
No, it's not.
and she was able to use that outside of Storybrooke.
That's just an Emma thing.
But
Well, and Ingrid seemed to think that Emma could use magic outside of Storybrooke when she stood her in front of a moving vehicle.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
true. Oh, Ingrid. I miss her.
and speaking of Ingrid, she was able to use. A lot of people were able to use the scroll that had magical powers outside of the town that has
It's very
magic.
convenient. It's convenient is what that is.
So a magical item allows them to see and enter the magical town of hope and wonder.
Hold on to your kidneys.
I didn't like his whole Rumple's whole are you tired of feeling ordinary? That's like such an uplifting thing to say, but not to two villains or two villains who are just trying to become more villainish. Like that's kind of something you say like when you're trying to like pep people up to do stuff they're afraid of or something. Not it just it was a cliche used incorrectly to me.
Yeah, I remember our theorizing that Cruella was ordinary, and what is she doing in Enchanted Forest? Well, now we know that, yeah, she does have magic.
Yeah, well, we just can't explain the furs.
Well, there's animals in the Enchanted Forest.
Yes, but she has a very vogue sense of style.
Well, she's probably from fictional London.
Probably. It is green. Maybe she met Peter Pan at some point.
Oh, jeez.
I loved seeing them all going through Mr. Cluck's drive-through, and a great Lost reference there, because I don't remember if we said this in the initial reactions, but Mr. Cluck's was the chicken. Jeremy, correct me on this, or you tell me. You're the one that like
I tell
Lostopedia.
you.
Yeah.
It well, you actually reminded me, and we did talk about it in the initial reaction. It was Hugo's chicken restaurant
That
chain.
he started
Yeah.
or he bought it?
I do
He
not
worked-
recall.
He worked at it, and
there,
then
you're right.
didn't he quit when he won the lottery?
He bought it. Yes.
Yeah, bought.
You are
it.
correct.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so neat little reference there. Inside the car, though, Rumple said some really interesting things.
His book harnesses a great power, one that exceeds anything we've ever experienced, giving villains and heroes what he deems just desserts. Our collective frustrations, they're because of his will, not our missteps.
I don't like that. I don't like
They
that.
are, yeah, giving this author a lot of power, and it brings into question all kinds of things like free will and stuff.
I thought Rumple was against that idea originally last year.
Originally, yes, he even told Regina that he was making his own happy endings until his happy ending was stolen from him because he messed up and he had this dirty secret that finally came out. And then I think he's just realizing that, yeah, Regina's probably right. Villains don't get happy endings. And it seems because it's written into this book like this.
This just frustrates me. With a series like this, where you can so clearly see cause and effect, it kind of drives me nuts that someone's saying, like, nope, it's just because some random author guy decided that this is what my life is going to be. Like,
Well,
cause and effect for Rumple, you lied to your wife for months and betrayed her trust and betrayed her and mistreated her and blah, 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 blah. And so she evicted you from town with the dagger that you gave her and lied about too. Like,
well,
that's cause and effect. That's not some author deciding that Belle's
Right.
suddenly gonna dislike him.
they could come down on one side of the issue or the other, but these are some of the writers who helped give us the sort of coexistence of choice versus fate in Lost.
Well, I have not finished watching Lost yet.
Just a concept, not a spoiler.
Okay.
I wonder if this is really far stretching, but I wonder if it's something like the author is so powerful that when he writes, he creates the world.
Well, that would be a little different than what I just said.
It'd be more like a little bit like a video game out
A little
there.
bit.
A little bit
And
of
an
a
even better
misty
book.
video game.
That just kind of made me think, though, of the Never-Ending Story, where the kid reading the book actually was the one with the power to finish the story.
Yeah, there's a modern movie kind of like that too. I can't remember the name of it, but the person was called Silver Tongue, and they could make the words or the story that they told be real. I wish I could remember the name of the movie, but it's a family movie. It was kind of a fun movie. Can't remember the name of it though. But Rumple is certain or fairly certain that the author is in Storybrooke. And some of the other things, and something that Blue Fairy said also makes it sound like the sorcerer is in Storybrooke too. So if these characters are in Storybrooke already, I think that starts to answer certain things, especially if the author is in Storybrooke. It possibly answers things about, or answers questions like, how did the book end up in Henry's possession? Maybe the author is basically watching, making a list to see who's been naughty and nice. And he gave the book to Henry because he could see Henry needed it.
And by gave the book to Henry, you mean snuck creepily
Well,
into
yeah.
Snow White's closet
Yeah.
and put it there.
And the same thing like with putting that one page inside of Robin's backpack.
Creepy.
Maybe that's because the author has been watching and he just wanted to confirm
Always
something.
watching. I just discovered who the author is.
Or maybe the sorcerer is the one who's watching and steals these books and puts them in these places. By the way, that movie that I mentioned, Inkheart. Thank you, chat room. It was Jasmine pointed that out. Thank you very much. Inkheart is the name of that fun movie. So the author and the sorcerer are in Storybrooke. I think this could be a very interesting 4th season.
They're just out in the woods somewhere fighting.
Season 4.5, Good versus Evil in Storybrooke.
That's new.
What was Regina's comment? We're going to have to see what's lowering property values this week.
Yeah. I mean, it's great for me when they recognize that they've got a pattern and they just sort of acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Everybody knows what to do.
But they acknowledge that too. Yeah. Wow, you guys are getting really good at this.
You would think they'd have a larger team by now in the town, maybe some more citizens who also know what to do.
Well, they sometimes have the dwarfs. And,
That's true.
You know, Red when she's not off doing other TV shows, and Granny when she's not babysitting with her crossbow.
But no dwarf called evilly.
No.
Yeah. But it's cool to see the relationship or the friendship and camaraderie building between Emma and the mayor there in the mayor's office. They're teaming up together, doing all this cool stuff, fighting crime.
They BFFs.
Well, the mayor and the sheriff should work closely together.
Not as closely as
the previous.
previously, but
Oh, right. That took me a moment.
that's a long time ago. Season 1 kind of stuff. But it is Free the Fairies Day. Happy
Yeah.
Free the Fairies Day. Actually, today, when we're recording this on March 4th, is Grammar Day. Because March 4th is the only day in the year, well, one of the days in the year that forms a complete sentence. So that's why they dubbed this Grammar Day.
Oh,
March
I didn't
4th.
even know that.
Oh my goodness.
It's spelled just a little bit differently. Yeah, don't get technical on it. But, yeah, so happy Grammar Day and happy Free the Fairies Day. There was some writing on the stone when they were actually freeing the fairies. And it was that
That's true.
same style of writing that we've seen several times before, the old style that has been in Frozen. It's basically like Hollywood's favorite old style writing that they use. So I wonder,
Maybe Elsa put that there.
yeah, did they have to use a particular stone or did they carve it in, or I don't know.
They just skipped that part. But I like that they get ready. Like, Regina's going to open the hat this time. She puts the dagger out, and they're like, nah, this time we're going to just kind of show it from the side because we forgot how to do the CGI hat trick after we kind of exhausted it in the beginning of the season. We did it. We used up our entire budget for the year doing that 30,000 times. So we're just going to do a big golden light whoosh. Is
And
that
they
cool?
also had to spend a lot of money on making the big
Winged.
creature.
Well, that's
Yeah.
true. There's just no time to get the hat right, even though they should be able to do it in their sleep by now.
Speaking of Regina using the dagger, though, did you notice how she interacted with it after using it?
Well, she looked at it like I don't even know what, and then she kind of disregarded it.
More than just looked at it, because I noticed that look too, but her hands were shaking after it, and she tried to hide
Shaking?
the shake. Yeah, at first I just thought like, oh, she's cold. Like that was actually Lana Parrilla was cold and shivering.
Your friend
It
Lana
was
Parrilla.
really cold there that day, so let's not totally discredit that
but
theory.
it's prominent, and they almost semi-focused on it. I mean, these are professional actors. They're able
Yeah.
to overcome things like that and overcome a shiver and do their job well, and they do their job well. So if something like that makes it in, it's not a mistake. The way that she looked at that dagger and with her hands shaking like that after she used the dagger, and they showed it several times, makes me wonder about her relationship now with this dagger and with this power that she used. Was it something that was just like, whoa, that took a lot of my strength? Or was it something like, whoa, this is addicting?
Well, it could have been. It could be something that's going to be to prove to be foreshadowing, but it could have also been really, really short range foreshadowing in that, hey, well, actually not that short range, but it could have been like, that did more than it should have. Because they didn't know what was hidden in it, which was releasing the...
Chernobog.
Beast.
Yeah, I was going to call it what Rumpel called it.
Yeah. I think it could be a plot point. I hope it is, because of the neat little hidden thing there.
Or not so hidden.
Was Rumpel's name is still on the dagger, right?
Yes, it does still
Okay.
say Rumpelstiltskin.
I didn't
I was
notice
afraid.
that, but
I was afraid that was what she was looking at, that the name on the dagger had changed or something.
I don't think we saw her give the dagger back to Belle. I can't remember now. But
Well, there would be a lot of people not giving things back in this episode, so that wouldn't surprise me.
most likely she did. But it does make me wonder if maybe she's thinking, oh, I could control the Dark One with this.
Wherever he is.
yeah, come back to Storybrooke. Yeah, I didn't really notice the shaking, but I didn't watch as closely as you guys, I guess.
I didn't notice shaking either.
But
we'll just
the
have to
chat room
take-
noticed the shaking.
Oh.
They were talking about it on Sunday night. I do recall that.
But Daniel watches every episode 18 times, frame by frame, so not really.
And so he should. Just kidding.
But speaking of people not noticing things, the freaking Chernobog came out and started roaring and whooshing wind around, and nobody noticed that it was around. And he did it like 10 feet from them.
That's because it was
Well-
slightly off to the left.
Oh, it's like when they say, "Can I speak to you privately?" and they just take a few steps.
Yeah.
He was just awaking privately, I guess.
Hollywood electricity is very slow and sound is very short range.
And knocking someone out is super easy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
They
speaking
were
of
all
knocking...
excited.
Speaking of knocking people out, you know what would knock us out in a good way and is really easy for you to do would be if you would vote for us in the podcast awards. We are very grateful that you have given so much support to nominate not only Once Podcast, but our other podcasts for finalists, that we are in the finalist positions with several of our podcasts on Noodle.mx Network. See, there's more than just Once Podcast that we host. Some of the shows are hosted by other people, like we have a TV show fan podcast for Resurrection, as well as for Welcome to Level 7, as well as for Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And several of our podcasts are finalists in the awards. So under Best Produced, we have Once Podcast. Under Business, there's Beyond the To-Do List. Under General is The Productive Woman. Under Religion Inspiration is Are You Just Watching? And under Technology is The Audacity to Podcast. We would really be honored if you would show your support by voting for us every day in the podcast awards through March 24th. It is a daily thing, and it does help if you go and vote, but you really need to go and vote every single day. So please go to oncepodcast.com/podcast awards. You'll see a video there, and I'll show you how you vote for the podcast, as well as I have a list of other podcasts that we are voting for in other categories. Like one of our donators, Mark Stapleton, has a podcast that is in the finalist position in the podcast awards too, and I know him, and I suggest that you vote for his show too. It's called Recovered Cast, and there's another list of episodes or shows that you could vote for in the awards in addition to ours, and it only takes you about a minute or two each day. So please go over to oncepodcast.com/podcast awards to see how you can support us and sign up for the daily email reminders to remind you to vote every single day. And this is where, even though we don't have the biggest audience, if you are more awesome than someone else's audience, then you could win this award for us. So this is really all about how awesome you are, not about how awesome we are. You have been so awesome that you've put us in the finalist position. So thank you very much for your support. We still need your help. Please vote for us every day through March 24th. Go to oncepodcast.com/podcast awards. When the ladies of darkness are at the town
The
line.
ladies of darkness.
Well, I can't, realistically, I can't call them the queens of darkness,
Yeah.
as we discussed.
They are more like ladies in the nobility sense, I suppose. Castles and such.
Yeah.
No subjects to speak of.
But Rumple took them there, cleverly marked with his tie. Nice little
Right.
way to indicate it.
Yeah, I guess nobody's been back to the town line except, well, there was an ice wall. I guess that probably prevented them from going, why is Rumple's tie hanging from that tree? Maybe someone should get that.
Well, he did that
Seems like trouble.
after the ice wall was gone, because that's when Belle commanded him
yeah.
to leave Storybrooke, which I know some people have questioned. How could he come back if she commanded him to leave and never return?
That was a question I had as well. At least when he came back into the town, some thing should have kicked back in and said, "No, you've been commanded." Because did she said never come back, did she not?
Yeah, maybe it's something kind of like a reset, that if he steps outside of town and comes back in, whatever commands were given before he left have been fulfilled and don't apply anymore. That's a technical workaround to maybe something they just overlooked in their writing.
Maybe she didn't really mean it, and so it doesn't count.
Well, he still left, so.
Well, but maybe she just didn't mean that part.
Oh,
The never come back part.
maybe. That could be. What I guess is maybe the more important part, if we can look past some strange questions like that, is, as usual, the acting. So Rumple, I loved how he was pretty empowered when he was being a troll. That was cool. He was pretty confident, like so many are on the internet. But now that he's out in the real world, but without magic, he's kind of speaking with fear. And even though these two that he's with, they're just normal women too, albeit with kind of a gun and a mean kick. But next thing you know, he's actually on his knees groveling in front of them. And even later, he was sort of dejected and about to kind of like wander away up the road when they came back for him.
He needs them.
Yeah.
Well, and he needs... He never stops having a crutch, as he's kind of pointed out. He has a crutch for real outside, and inside magic is his crutch.
Yeah.
I didn't really like the gun thing. I always hate when shows that are
But it was
magical.
bejeweled.
Well, of course it was. But like I hated the taser. And like I guess I get it. Like this happened in Buffy as well. Like there's all this supernatural stuff happening, and then it's really showing they're still human. They can still just be shot by a gun and killed.
Well, but on that side of the town line, that was kind of the most powerful thing any of the three of them had, was that gun. None of them
Yeah.
had magic.
That's true. But I don't like
So
it.
it was okay there. If she pulled a gun in Storybrooke, it'd be a little strange.
Maybe she should have pulled a taser.
Maybe.
Jesus.
Would work on him better than a wooden man.
Yep.
Hey, come on. Let's lay off season 2.
Why did we? Oh.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
As they've celebrated, or as they're celebrating, let me just say that again. Back at the diner, it seems like they're celebrating Free the Fairies Day with, I don't know, free drinks or something for the nuns. I don't quite get what they're doing there. But Blue Fairy is clearly disturbed about something when they bring up the topic of the sorcerer.
You try living in a hat for 6 weeks.
Well,
Oh, you mean okay? She was brooding even before that.
yeah,
and then
before
she,
that.
Yeah.
But then when they mention the sorcerer, that's when she seems like, what? The sorcerer? And she seemed scared of the sorcerer.
Yeah, scared didn't quite cover it. It was sort of
Hate?
incredulous. I think they have a past, a
Yeah.
romantic past. She
Oh.
wasn't always a nun, people.
She
I mean, do you
maybe
remember her
wasn't
dress?
always the fairy.
But she also clarified that the author and the sorcerer are two very different people. And here's what I'm wondering, because she also said it's pointed out it's very strange that the sorcerer would have all of these books, blank books from the author.
Yeah, but woman needs to spill.
My guess is the sorcerer is wanting his own happy ending as well. He's an evil guy wanting his own happy ending, or it could even be a girl, since they've opened that up in one episode, that wants their happy ending. And maybe that villain then has been trying to use the author to get to that happy ending. And part of that is kind of living vicariously through the written lives of others. Like maybe the sorcerer dictated that the author write the book the way that he did. Or maybe the sorcerer is trying to get the author to write his own book. Or maybe the sorcerer stole all of these books from the author and the sorcerer is trying to write his own happy ending. Whatever the case, I think the sorcerer and the author might be enemies.
More likely frenemies.
Yeah. Close enough.
Not really. Yeah, well, I thought Blue seemed a little possibly even concerned that the sorcerer had the books, whether because of the safety of the author or because of what he could do with them potentially if he figured out how. I would just theorize that he doesn't know how to use them.
She did say the book is very powerful.
I wonder.
just-
I wonder if we're gonna see, because Henry would totally do this, and I probably would if I was in his position. Like, grab a pen and write something in the book. See what happens.
He has a history.
Or take a
Maybe.
wand, tap it to the book, and say, I solemnly swear that I am up to no good.
Well, maybe the book will talk back to him, like Tom Riddle's diary.
Ooh, I hope not like that.
No, but like he could just write, and Regina, the evil queen, lived happily ever after, and just see what happens. That's what he's after.
Yeah. I wonder
Is
if it
that
could
not
be
something
something
old
like,
Henry would have totally tried by now?
or that it's kind of a thing, like the answer is inside you. We are all authors of the book. Maybe that's the thing, is that Regina has to write her own story into the book. After all, August wrote his story into the book.
Yeah. I was just going to bring August up and ask about that. Do we think that August knew the author?
Ooh.
Because
good
he
question.
he even had the right size paper.
Yeah, so he was inserting pages into the book. He didn't necessarily pen them.
Right.
Oh wait, yeah, wasn't he putting pages in the book that he took out?
Right. He stole Henry's book and then he added his own story into
He
the
added
book.
pages,
Right.
but I don't remember now. I don't remember an indication that he had removed them at any point or that they had been
Yeah.
removed.
Right. They weren't removed. He added his own story in, and Henry noticed that. So, yeah, maybe August knew the author, and that's how August knew all of these things, like how Neil was Balefire and how to find Storybrooke and all of this stuff.
Yeah.
That could make cool sense. And, oh, if that's the case, then it would make me think maybe we'll get to see August, like adult August
In a
again.
flashback.
Yeah, some kind of
Yeah.
flashback so we get to see more about how the author worked his magic. That could be really cool.
Yeah. Like, okay, little August does not remember anything, right?
We generally call him Pinocchio.
Okay. Right. The redheaded kid. Jacob Davies.
Mm.
Right, he doesn't remember.
Okay. So they couldn't like go grill him about it.
Yeah.
Because how terrible would it be to have a child who remembers such a troubled adulthood
True.
as his own life?
When the Ladies of Darkness called in with their really bad acting, it just made me think, can't Regina hear how disingenuous this sounds?
Yeah, I think. I mean, she was pretty suspicious anyway. Her "how convenient" comment.
Yeah.
Just in case you were as confused as we were about a particular line, there was the spot where they were talking about the Chernobog over the phone, and Emma put her hand on the phone and said, "They've been living in a land without magic. How could they do it?" And then she had this notice of realization, or this look of realization, and said, "It's the hat." Just in case you were as confused as we were, because I think all of us were confused about that.
Mm-hmm.
It was that initially it seemed like Regina was accusing Ursula and Cruella of bringing Chernobog. And that's why Emma was saying, "But how could they do it? They've been in a land without magic."
And that part made sense.
Yeah. And then her saying, "It's the hat." And Regina says, "I know." Like Regina kind of giving up the fact that,
Yeah.
it's probably not them.
It was as though the words made sense and the tone did not.
Right. So that, in case you were as confused as we were, that's how that makes sense. 'Cause I had to rewatch that several times. I don't know. Maybe I'm the only one that was as confused as that. I don't know.
No, I remember on first watch, I felt like I had not been paying attention. And when you replayed it for us this time, I was equally confused.
When Emma and Regina team up then with this new information from Ursula that the Chernobog goes after the one with a heart with the greatest potential for darkness.
It's such a mouthful. They're going to have to find
So
a way
specific.
to shorten that.
Yeah.
Well, unless he's gone, so they don't really have to talk about it anymore.
They go through this whole process, which was, great. I could see it coming that Chernobog was actually after Emma,
Well, yeah.
because it's, a logical twist of things. Why see Regina struggle with darkness again? Haven't we seen that enough times? Let's see someone else struggle with darkness. When all of this happens and they're right about to then let Ursula and Cruella in, Snow and Charming come up, and they are truly out of character as they're basically saying, "No, don't let them in. They don't deserve a second chance," and all of this stuff. And because they were both in on that, and remember when it was when Emma called Mary Margaret and said, "This is what we're going to do," Emma hung up and she said, "This is what's happening." Charming said, "Why aren't you smiling then?" That's when Mary Margaret said, because Ursula, she said, because Ursula and Cruella are there.
And then they gave each other those deadpan looks that they tend to give.
Knowing looks. And the way that later in the episode that they interact, I mean, we'll just kind of address this topic here, even though it bounces around a bit. The way they interacted with Emma and Regina there at the town line just before they let in Ursula and Cruella, and the way that they interact with Ursula and Cruella later, makes me think that this is something that's between both of the Charmings and Ursula and Cruella, not just Snow White.
Right.
Because I could see if it was just Snow White, then what David, if he was being true to character, what David would be doing is saying, "Snow, I don't think you need to be concerned about this. Give them a chance." All of this stuff that he would be trying to convince her, no, let's let them try. But here seems to be fully supportive of it. And so it's making me think this is something that happened since they've been together.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
more flashbacks that will explain that.
Yeah. Well, and I wonder if it does have something to do. They are very worried about Emma finding out.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if it has something to do with Emma in some way. Like, I can't think of a way. I'm not great at that part, but it seems like, because that the timeline would kind of match up to, like, for them, for Maleficent, sorry. So for Ursula and Cruella to be around kind of following the last episode where Belle was around as well with Rumple in the flashbacks, that would maybe be the same kind of time that they were thinking about having a baby or pregnant with Emma or something in that timeline in Enchanted Forest. So I don't know. I wonder if it does have something to do with Emma specifically that would make her disappointed in them or angry at them or something.
Well, it better
Feel unloved.
not make us feel that way.
It
It
could
might.
also just be something like, we don't want our family to know, especially not our family. But it does,
Yeah.
since they did single Emma out, it does sound like it's something that, yeah, is connected to Emma.
They just better not pull a Squid Ink.
Well, they are dealing with
Burning
the
Red
Sea
Room?
Witch here.
What?
Oh.
I didn't mean literally, but now that you mention it, I mean, the history of the show should be the history of the show. I hope they don't mar it with something that is clearly an add-on and an afterthought.
But there is a lot of time between, like, okay, Snow and Charming's real wedding, where Ruth was there and Snow found out she was going to have a baby, and her actually having Emma. Like, there's a big space, I think, in between those two things.
Well, it wasn't
So.
she found out she was having a baby. Like, she
No,
wasn't pregnant
but she
yet.
could have a baby. Like that curse that King Spencer.
Spencer.
Yeah, Spencer put on her was
King
broke.
George.
King George, yeah. So it's not necessarily going to change the history. It might just embellish it, as this show tends to do.
So back at the town line then, Rumple could have just hidden in the trunk of the car.
I thought that's what he did.
That's true. That's
Although
jeez.
maybe it was something like, if he didn't look at the scroll, if he didn't see the scroll, he wouldn't have been allowed in. So they drive through the town border, and then he pops out the trunk because he can't go through the
Does he
border.
pop out the trunk, or does he become a pancake and ooze out the trunk?
I don't think they would have had enough budget left for that.
That's an interesting. I don't really understand how the scroll works, I suppose. So it didn't
Yeah.
seem like if they looked at it and then looked at the line.
Yeah, it's reading the scroll, or maybe just looking at the scroll, opens your eyes to the town. Remember when the Snow Queen had it? She was out in the middle of nowhere, which is where Storybrooke is. She looked at the scroll and then looked up, and suddenly she's in Storybrooke. The scroll,
Right.
we had different ideas about that back then. We thought maybe it either transported her to Storybrooke or it revealed Storybrooke to her. Now we know
it was
it
in the latter.
revealed Storybrooke to her, and it allowed her kind of like to cross dimensions. It's an interdimensional portal because the scroll is shaped like a cone. No, that's the hat.
It's probably written with squid ink, let's face it.
Yeah, that's cool. It all comes back to Squid Ink. Yeah.
Was anyone actually feeling sorry for Rumple in this scene? I was just wondering.
Yeah.
A little bit,
See,
sorta.
that's what this show does to people.
It made me even wonder, how long were Ursula and Cruella on the other side of that line, just watching him there, like to see what does
All
he do?
sad.
And then when they see him start to tear up and walk away, they feel pity too, and they decide, yeah, let's go ahead and let him in.
He does, Robert Carlyle does a great, like, I'm so sad, please pity me actor moments. So I almost did, but then I remembered he's Rumpelstiltskin and he's a jerk.
And he's back.
Oh, he's something.
Oh, goodness.
Before we talk about this last little bit here, I want to thank some people who left some kind reviews for us on iTunes by going to oncepodcast.com/iTunes. Max the Dog 5 said, "So good, even a troll would love it." This is a great little show that sprays charm all over the audience. It's a fun,
Aw.
insightful, and brilliant. And starts with AJ said this, and this is just an excerpt of the full review. We'll have a link to that in the show notes at oncepodcast.com/181. But it starts with AJ said, after listening to all of their discussions on the current season, I intend to rewatch Once Upon a Time and listen to their podcast from the beginning as I do so. Their podcast is informative, insightful, and just the right amount of humor. Now, this part, this praises me, but I'm reading this because when I read this, I laughed out loud at this, and I think you will too, because this is just really funny, but I really appreciate the compliment here. Plus, Daniel J. Lewis has a voice that is perfect for radio. It kind of reminds me of the way someone like Ira Glass from This American Life speaks, where his voice alone pulls you in and makes you want to hear what he has to say from the second he opens his mouth. Not that the others, Jenny, Aaron, and others, I believe, don't sound good as well. Their voices work well with his, and all three seem to have great chemistry. So, thank you. Oh, that made me laugh a lot today and put a big smile on my face, and that was fun. Thank you. Starts with AJ and Max the Dog 5 for those kind reviews. When you review us on iTunes or on Stitcher, it really encourages us. It puts smiles on our faces like this. You don't have to praise our radio voices or anything like that. Just an honest review, even if it's not 5 stars.
It doesn't hurt.
An honest review, it would be greatly appreciated. It encourages us and it helps other people find the podcast too. So if you'd like to write a review and haven't yet, then please go to oncepodcast.com/iTunes. And that's also where you can subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. But most likely, if you're listening this far into the episode, you've subscribed already. These are the survivors we're talking to now. Rumpel now has this plan that as he's in Storybrooke, he's kind of doing what Cora did back in season 2, where Cora was behind the scenes, the secret person that was in town manipulating the situation and waiting for that moment to reveal herself when the people had been weakened and conditioned to just the right point. It seems like Rumpel is now taking on a similar role where he is manipulating or going to manipulate behind the scenes as Cruella and Ursula do this fake repentance thing and making friends and all of that stuff.
But really, Rumpel's not really pulling any strings in his own opinion because there's some author guy who's really doing all of that. Just pointing that out.
Yeah, that's true. It's like everything is against him at some point.
I wonder if Ursula feels like she's in need of a few more hands.
She's probably been living like that for a while.
Well, yeah, but do you ever get used to a thing like that? Think about how old she is.
True.
So they're going to resurrect Maleficent
Or something.
in some way. They said she's not fully... I would just say that again. I got my genders mixed up.
Whoa.
Rumpel said that she's not fully dead. Princess Bride reference there?
Yeah.
Maybe. So I wonder, how are they going to do that? Reverse taser?
Jeez.
But
Squid Ink.
it'll be cool to see Maleficent back. And which way is she going to look? Is she going to look like Once Upon a Time Maleficent or like Angelina Jolie Maleficent? Or Maleficent?
Stop. Don't say. No, she's
And how-
gonna...
yeah.
Do you think, though, that they have made that costume change indicative of a change in her character or of a time frame, or do they just go, hey, this is a way Maleficent has looked, let's put her in this today, kind of the way they did with Elsa? They were like, here she is, post Let It Go, but here, even though time-wise, yeah, it's after all that, she sometimes still wears her old clothes and her old hairstyle.
I'm thinking it's a difference between pre and post Sleeping Beauty. That everything we've seen, this new style that I keep calling Angelina Jolie Maleficent, which is really based on the original Disney.
Right.
I'm thinking that is before Sleeping Beauty, because the Maleficent we've seen before back in the Maleficent we've seen before back in season 1 looked more broken and not so kept up style-wise. And
Sure.
kempt hair even. So I'm thinking that this is if we see her now, I have no idea which way she'll look in Storybrooke.
Scaly, charred,
Yeah, will she be a dragon?
bloated.
There may be
Don't know.
dragons.
Well, that story too, the Maleficent story, is one that we kind of always wanted and never really got back in season 1, and then again in season 2 when Aurora was introduced as Sleeping Beauty, but then it was maybe about her mom, and like there's a lot of things in that story that they could embellish upon as well. And Aurora has made guest appearances this season. She has a baby, and perhaps they can actually shed some light on that storyline as
And
well.
if they're going to, I think this would be a good season to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it didn't really fit that much in past seasons, even though we did have a lot of time with Aurora. But I think here it does fit a lot more since we would be getting the villain's backstory.
Yeah. Aurora Jr.
Yeah.
Well, but that also goes with the Disney movie where she was really taking it out on, like she was like the Angelina Jolie movie, she was taking out her frustration on Aurora as the daughter of the person who really did her wrong. Right?
Yeah. Presumably. Because it seems like, she's been after the whole family the whole time.
Yeah.
We got some feedback in from a few listeners. Michael sent us some background on Chernobog and that it was a relationship. Let me say that differently. Michael sent us some background on Chernobog, not just in terms of Fantasia, but pointed out that this has been in Slavic mythology for many, many years. And the name actually means black god. And that's why I think we see him as black like that. And it's has a brother that's called Beelbog, which means white god, and is a figure of light and goodness. Interesting thing. Thanks, Michael, for the background there. Jessica Olson sent us a couple emails, and one of them she said, it's some thoughts on the sorcerer and the author. She said, I hope the hidden clues that the author left aren't hidden Mickeys, but that is totally what I thought of when Blue said something about the clues.
I thought of that too. That's great.
Follow the Mickeys. Blue does seem to be nervous about the sorcerer and kind of surprised or almost scared that they wanted to find him. I thought it was interesting that Blue said it could be a she. Let me say that again. I thought it was interesting that Blue said it could be a she. I hadn't really thought about it before, but it's interesting to think about. I'll put a side note here. We have seen Jack, the giant killer, be a girl. We've seen genders switched in other roles before with characters.
Mm-hmm.
Since the books belonging to the author are found in the sorcerer's house, that makes me think they at least know each other, if not work together. It would be really interesting if the author was the sorcerer's wife.
Oh.
That'd be crazy.
Or had
Yeah.
been.
Yeah. Jessica also said, I'm thinking that if both Snow and Charming were involved with this weird thing that happened with Ursula and Cruella, and both Ursula and Cruella, and possibly Maleficent. Wait. Let me read that differently. I messed that up. About the relationship between the Charmings and Ursula and Cruella, Jessica also said it had to have happened sometime before Charming and Snow were married or while Snow was pregnant with Emma. It could be that they made some sort of sketchy deal with them. I don't really know what would need to be such a secret that would cause Snow to threaten to rip out their hearts. But my guess is that it would have to do with either protecting Emma or defeating the evil queen back in the Enchanted Forest. Great ideas there, Jessica. And thanks to our other listeners who sent in feedback. We really appreciate that, and we've incorporated some of that throughout this. Sorry we couldn't incorporate everything and read everyone's messages. But we'd love for you to be part of this and continue the conversation. You can comment on the things that we've shared in this episode by going to oncepodcast.com/181, or you can start your own conversations over in the forums at oncepodcast.com. There are all kinds of ways to subscribe to the podcast, follow us, connect with us, participate in the conversation, send your feedback. It's all at oncepodcast.com. So if you don't remember anything else, that's where you need to go, oncepodcast.com, to get that information. Subscribe to the podcast, rate, review us in iTunes, get the show notes, the screenshots that we mentioned, everything like that. The one other thing I'd love for you to do is please vote for us every day through March 24th in the podcast awards. Go to oncepodcast.com/podcast awards. You can connect with us on social networks like Twitter at oncepodcast, and I'm Daniel J. Lewis on Twitter at the Ramen Noodle.
I'm Jeremy Laughlin on Twitter at Phlegon. That's PHLEGON.
I'm Erin, and I'm on Twitter at Erin J. Cruz.
This podcast would not be possible without our great team of volunteers. So special thanks to Corbin for sorting our feedback, Jack writing our show notes, John Buchanan editing our episodes, Hunter and Jacqueline for providing spoilers. You'll hear from them in just a moment. Jacqueline and Matthew Paul moderating the forums, Jacob helping with the screenshots, Keb managing our timeline, Aliascape and Aaron J managing and moderating the chat room, Jeremy, Aaron, Hunter, and Jacqueline co-hosting this podcast. And special thanks to you for being part of this community and all of your great feedback and ways that you participate in the podcast. Send us your feedback for upcoming episodes. And until next time, remember... Missed it. Once Podcast is a proud member of Noodle.mx Network. Find more of our award-winning and award-nominated podcasts to make you think, laugh, and succeed at Noodle.mx. Big thanks to our sponsors for this episode of the podcast. If you'd like to be one of them, then please go to oncepodcast.com/sponsor. Let me do that outro again. Because I couldn't find it. I was scrolling up and down. My closing part, I couldn't find it. Yeah. I just could not find it. And I realized, I ran out of time. I was going around in circles. So, John, please use this as the closing.
Oh, I'll pay you to release it as is. Just kidding, I won't.
Special thanks to our whole team of volunteers who make this podcast possible. Corbin for sorting our feedback, Jack writing our show notes, John Buchanan for producing our episodes, Hunter Hathaway and Jacqueline for providing our spoilers. You'll hear from them in just a moment. Jacqueline and Matthew Paul moderating the forums, Keb managing our timeline, Aliascape moderating the chat room, Jeremy, Aaron, Hunter, and Jacqueline hosting this podcast together with us. And Jeremy, Aaron, Hunter, and Jacqueline for hosting this podcast with me. And you can tell we have a lot of fun with it. And until next time, worry not. My power extends far beyond ramen noodles. I had to say that one. And thanks for listening. Okay.
Yay!
Go ahead and stop your recorder, Aaron.
I didn't make a stop to cough once. Wow.
Except for
After
the
the
one.
first time.
Did you guys know that obsidian is molten volcanic rock that cools quickly? So atoms
Okay.
cannot
Yeah.
Wow.
From Minecraft.
Okay, so here's a MacBook question for y'all.
Yeah. We're still
How do
live, by the way.
That's fine. So it says save as, and I'm going to label it, and then it says where, and it says Dropbox, but there's no way for me to select just my Aaron audio from Aaron folder.
Oh,
Yeah. There's a little triangle on the right side of your location box. Click it. Either the file name line or the
Yeah, and
location.
then it's it says I can go to Dropbox, but then it only lets me select Dropbox.
so you're in the Dropbox folder.
Well, so I
Well,
said
I'm-
triangle. No,
Oh.
so you're on the save as dialog box, right?
Oh,
Yeah, and then you
I
found it.
Now she's got it.
see.
It's like the one button and you click and it goes bwah, and then you
Wait,
get
but
all your folders.
Okay, wait. Oh, okay. So what
Yeah.
an episode number is this?
181.
Can you restate the question?
I'll play the spoilers, guys, in just a couple minutes. So if you want to stick around
Spoilers,
for those-
girls.
Yeah, I grew
Just
up in
kidding.
California.
So for anyone still listening live, I just got a MacBook, and so
And that's how you do that.
I'm learning.
Like how I can hear half a question and
You know the
visualize
answer.
the answer.
Mhm.
Hey, I've been doing pretty good. I've only had to Google a couple of things.
Well, even the fact that that's what you do when you have a question is good.
Yeah, that's a lot better than half the world.
I didn't pay for the one-to-one, so
Have you ever seen the website letmegooglethatforyou.com?
oh, I've heard about it. I've sent it to people.
Oh, yeah.
I'm always tempted to use it, but I feel really bad doing that.
I used to have a teacher that I'd be like, how do you spell blah, blah, blah? And they'd be like, why? And I'd like start writing it, right? Oh, they just
Yeah,
spelled dictionary.
A visit from the robot Aaron.
Yeah, it sounds like Dropbox is already uploading because we're getting robot Aaron.
Oh, no.
She sounds so sad.
Because I like there.
We can
I
turn the
like
speakers
the
on. Now.
post show.
What you can do is in your menu bar up at the top, there's a little Dropbox icon.
I did. I paused
Oh, you
it.
paused
Yeah,
it. Okay.
I did.
What's
now.
that my
Oh,
zipper?
I had another question.
I
If
wanna
I
do it
just leave my
again.
Mac like open on this desk and it turns black because the screen turns black, will it still sync Dropbox? Or do I have
It
to set it to
should.
not turn off?
As
If it's just the
long-
display.
Yeah, well, I think by default it is set to go into standby mode,
Okay,
sleep
let me
mode.
check that out.
Maybe you're right.
So if you go to your system preferences
Yeah.
and then click on energy saver, I think.
Oh, should I click the prevent computer from sleeping automatically when display is off?
Yes. Right?
Okay.
I don't have one in front
Yeah.
of me.
Yeah, that's what you
That one I don't know.
want to
It says
click.
so there's put hard disk to sleep when
Oh.
possible is clicked. Wake for
Prevent-
Wi-Fi network access is clicked.
Oh yeah, I would check
Enable
that
power
box.
While sleeping your Mac, it can back up using tempo.
Yeah, so
I-
that
okay.
first box should be checked under the power adapter section.
You've changed
Okay.
it a little bit. I
And the
didn't
rest of them
notice.
are okay checked as well?
Yeah, that's how I have it on my computer, under the
Okay.
power adapter section.
Okay. Good. We're good.
I need to stop hunching over doing a podcast. I realized that at some point.
know.
Oh, boy, that must look horrible in the video. Here I am, like,
Oh, I thought you meant because of how your back felt, not because of how you looked in the video.
well, also because it's not good for my back.
Also for the ergonomics.
I should like make sure my microphone stays up there. So if I go down here, then I have to stay up here.
We should all do
Stay.
yoga right after the podcast, and then we'll all feel great.
That kind of yoga?
Is that how you say it? Yaga.
What?
Yaga.
Karate yoga. Actually, I have a
did
friend who did Tai Chi. And I was realizing that's all like karate moves, except just 100 times slower and 100 times more boring.
Yeah.
I can go lower.
I forgot my favorite kata. Kata?
Kata.
Kata.
Yeah. I don't know how you guys said it. So,
Oh.
the other day, and I was really disappointed. But I haven't been to a
Oh.
karate class in like 4 years, so I guess it's time that I forgot.
I've probably forgotten them all, but I think they would come back quickly.
Do you know Shinto, Daniel? Shinto?
No, I don't.
Oh, I just
Is
thought
that-
you might know.
Is that the kata?
Is that when you put your
Yeah,
chin
that's
on your
the
toe?
kata. It's like a brown to black belt kata, but it's amazing. But I forgot. Like I know most of it, and then I just forgot part of it, and I'm like, I should go back to karate.
The kata. Let me see. Which?
I feel like I'd have to start
I'm looking over at my medals. No, I'm serious.
Like you do.
I I am a national champion in karate, and I'm trying to remember now
You
what
were
it.
The way you say
Shotokan, right? You did
Yeah,
Shotokan?
Shotokan.
Yeah.
Stratus.
So do you know Seisan?
Tell me
Yeah,
about this later.
Seisan.
Okay.
That-
Seisan is my second favorite kata.
Seisan.
Seisan. It's threes. Lots of threes.
I never did say so.
I'm trying to remember which one Seisan is.
It's
I can't remember any of them. That's not true.
you start stepping out with your left foot to a block and then punch and block. And then right foot.
I
punch,
might
block.
remember
Punch,
Takyo
block.
Kushoto.
I could just send you a YouTube video. It's probably easier than
Yeah,
me trying
I
to
think-
describe
I
it.
think Seisan. I can't remember.
Say
What's-
them in order.
What's the full name of Seisan? Like there's
Become
more
a
than
karate podcast all of a
there's
sudden.
more than just that in the name.
All I know is Seisan.
Okay.
But it's like, it's a Chitaru kata, I think. So then if
Yeah.
you know it, you probably know like the Shotokan equivalent.
Yeah, I think
We were a mix.
It's everything in threes though. Like every sequence
Is that
in
right?
threes.
We were.
That's what
It
they
was a
thought.
mix of
There are kicks
Shotokan
in
and
it.
Shidoru.
right. Some
There
kicks
were
in it.
kicks. Yeah, there were kicks.
Is there
So
this
like, yeah.
thing where how's that work?
What was the nunchuck kata
Oh,
called?
does it start out really slowly, like
Yeah.
a very slow block, and then fast punch, and then very
Yeah.
slow block?
Yeah, exactly what
Yes.
you just did.
Is
Yeah.
That's
that
my-
the one with Sherry's favorite move?
And then when you
No.
turn,
Oh,
you
wait.
do
I don't remember.
I can't even remember what it's called, but you do like the flat-handed strike
Yes.
3 times and then you turn and face one way and do like high shiko dash
Yes.
and then kick.
Yeah, we did actually punches instead of flat-handed strikes. But yeah, that's my award winner. That was the one I did in competition, and
Nice.
won some championship with that one as well as a bow staff kata. Actually, I
I
have my
never
bow staff
ever-
kata right here.
I never
you?
won anything big in kata.
Oh,
I
yes.
always only won
He
in
keeps the
kata.
bow under the couch
Yeah, this
Oh,
thing.
I have a bow too.
in case of intruders.
Yeah. I never won in kata though. I suck at kata. I only won in fighting.
I have legitimately walked through a house that I suspected of having been compromised with my nunchucks in hand, and I knew how to use them. It was kind of a good moment in my life. Also terrifying. And it turned out later someone had been in the house legitimately, but I didn't know. I was not crazy. The doors were open and they should not have been.
I
I
one
was
time
justified in my nunchuck wielding.
I did a karate roll across my dining room floor when that was the story. I kept saying I was going to send into the ramen noodle and I never did.
Well, if you send it now, we might dramatize it for video.
Why do I see
No, do you
blood
remember
in my
the
future?
episode of Once Wonderland where Alice was getting back the knave's heart and Jenny said, I just wanted her to like do a roll or something because she was sneaking in behind the car. Yeah. And then that's what made me think of this story and then I never sent it. And
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
we're going to send you Crazy Canucks feedback again though too. You're Canadians.
Ah, Jenny, we miss her.
Doc is about to tweet your nunchuck comment, Jeremy.
what? No, if he does it, it's gonna sound different.
Yeah, he is. I tweet verbatim, but I can't do that when we're podcasting because I get too distracted.
Mhm.
Oh, I have 5 Twitter notifications, so probably those are just you guys going back and forth about something we said.
Not I. I have 4 Twitter notifications though.
Oh, yeah? Well,
Let's see. I'm joking again. Let's see.
Yeah, you're definitely tagged in at least one of mine, Jeremy.
Definitely want to be. Who? What? What about Ladies of Darkness?
He's voting for you, Belle, me, and Jenny to be the ladies.
Dachshund, I hate you.
Oh, that's harsh language.
He knows it's the most loving kind of hate there is.
and by love, we mean like man to man, punch you in the shoulder, tell you you stink, you suck, you look ugly kind of love. That kind of love.
Wait, he named 3 girls and a guy, so I guess that makes me Rumple.
Oh, I have a question. Did you guys see the trailer for the new Peter Pan movie?
No.
Okay, because you need to, like, right now.
Oh, speaking of new movie, Jeremy, are you available Tuesday night for Cinderella? I want to set you up with a blind date.
I was
with
gonna
this
say like
girl.
she wants to go out.
Yeah. But yeah, Tuesday night. I just got the pass in the mail today.
I think so.
Okay.
The 10th.
When does it open
Yes.
for the rest of the population?
I think it doesn't open until Friday the next week.
Oh,
Friday
wow.
the
That's
13th.
such
It's a
advance.
full moon over Cinderella's cottage.
But what I'm thinking is whatever Thursday, could we maybe do Thursday night after we watch to do our review?
The PCast,
Yeah.
perhaps,
So you and I would go see it on a Tuesday.
on a Tuesday,
Then we would record Once podcast on Wednesday.
like you do.
Then we would do our Cinderella review on a Thursday. And it would publish the
I
following
don't know
week.
what I'm doing right now. Probably a chair kata. Yes.
Okay.
No, I
work
don't
that out
know.
with you offline.
Yep.
And please do watch the trailer for I think it's just called Pan. And I unfortunately had the terrible, unfortunate experience of escorting a 5.5-year-old to the SpongeBob movie. And they showed that trailer, which was probably not great for the 5.5-year-old.
Oh, that's great.
I think I did see it.
Were you
but
that 5.5-year-old?
No. Wait, what? But the trailer was probably the only part that made the movie even worth like a cent. Spoiler alert, the SpongeBob movie was terrible.
No doubt.
Yeah, it's really good. It looks really good.
I
really
saw a
excited.
cool blog post. I can't remember if it was like on Huffington Post or BuzzFeed or something, but it had a list of the best Peter Pans in history. And it included Once Upon a Time's Peter Pan.
As it should.
And he
None of the women,
was,
because they're not
I
boys.
think he was number 3 on a list of 10.
Where did Robin Williams fall?
Robin Williams, I think, was number 5. Yeah.
Ooh.
I forget who number 1 was.
I want to learn to play
The shock mount.
the shock mount. Traditionally played with a hoodie string.
Or a zipper.
This sounds really good in the earphones, you guys.
It sounds, I could hear it too, actually.
You're crazy.
Oh, silly,
All right.
silly
Well,
boy.
how about I go ahead and do these spoiler things? We
These
call this
spoiler
a night.
things.
Because it's almost 9 o'clock and Jeremy needs to go.
Okay.
Bye, Jeremy.
I'm gonna.
And Jeremy needs to go. Yeah. I'm actually hesitating to drive out into the snow.
Aww.
But I'll see you guys later, probably. No, good
Jeremy.
night, everybody.
Don't even. How much snow do you guys have? How much snow do you have?
I don't
Total
know. It was
right
falling
now?
at a rate of an inch an hour.
It was predicted that we would get something like 8 to 10 inches, I think.
So your whole city's gonna be shut
Laugh
down
at
for
me.
like.
Yeah.
I'm not laughing at you.
Well, I have to go to freaking work in the freaking morning.
So do I.
It's only freaking because of the freaking snow on the freaking roads.
Jeremy's freaking out.
Do you know what I do for a living, Jeremy?
Well, yes, I do. That's pretty
So
amazing.
calm down, okay? You're gonna be fine. You are gonna be fine.
You need to change careers.
I'm working on it. Okay.
I'll just think of that and feel
Be
safer.
grateful.
Hmm.
All right. Well, let's cut this.
Let's cut this
Well-
off.
I'm going to play the spoilers for everyone.
Good night, everybody. Daniel's
Good
cutting us
night.
off.
If you want to chat about these spoilers, then please chat about them in the forums over at oncepodcast.com/forums. There's a chat room over there that allows spoilers, but keep this spoiler free on the live page. So good night, everyone, and thank you for joining us.
Good night, guys.
Good night.
See you, Aaron.
Hi, Oncers. I'm Hunter Hathaway,
And I'm Jacqueline.
and it's spoiler time for Once podcast. We have season 4, episode 13, Unforgiven. David and Mary Margaret suspect Cruella and Ursula have come to Storybrooke looking for something more than their own happy endings, something that will threaten to reveal a secret they thought was long buried. Emma begins her own investigation of Cruella and Ursula, but she can't shake the feeling that her friends and family are keeping something from her. Regina and Henry continue their search for the author. turning to Pinocchio and Marco in the hope Pinocchio might remember a clue that will help them. Meanwhile, in a flashback to Fairy Tale Land, Snow and Charming cross paths with the Queens of Darkness as the threat of Evil Queen's dark curse hangs over them. A lot going on.
A lot going on.
Guest stars we have, and I know I'm really bad with names, Tony Adamdola, who's Marco, Beverly Elliott as Granny, and then we've got Ursula, Cruella, Sleepy's back, and then we have Jacob Davies as Pinocchio, and we will get to see Maleficent again.
We also got 2 promos this week. We got an American and we got a Canadian.
Yes.
We'll start with the American.
Oh, we forgot to mention, hold on. This one's written by Andrew Chambliss and Kalinda Vasquez, and it's directed by Adam Horowitz.
That's right. This is Adam's episode. I forgot about that.
Yes. That's why I'm like, wait, we need to mention this. This is a good thing.
Yep. This is Adam's first time behind the camera as the director for any show. So best of luck, Adam.
That's so exciting.
We did get 2 promos this week, one from Canada and then the American. The American, seems pretty typical. Maleficent really seems to be at the forefront, especially with her some sort of relationship with Snow and Charming.
Yes.
Obviously, they're going to be hyping up this secret that Snow and Charming are keeping from everybody.
Yes, and we see a dragon.
We do see a dragon. And then it looks like Maleficent will be threatening baby Neil.
Well, it depends. If you see it in the American promo, that's exactly what it looks like. But in the Canadian promo,
yes,
to me, it looks different. It looks like Snow is dreaming.
That's what I thought.
And it looks like a whole Sleeping Beauty-esque scene.
And it sounds like the Queens of Darkness are going to be trying to resurrect Maleficent.
Yes.
Who the last time we saw her was some sort of dragon zombie.
Yeah, whatever.
Something.
And okay, so we know that the Charmings did something, and when it's in the Canadian promo, we hear that they are going to make them pay. So I guess it's the Queens of Darkness are going to make the Charmings pay. And Rumple's with them in the mines looking for the ashes of Maleficent.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like they get cursed to sleep somehow. And Rumple's casting a spell, and he hands a knife off to a black glove, which I'm going to guess is Cruella.
Yes, as if she has to do something with this knife to bring Maleficent back to life, maybe.
Like a blood sacrifice, like cut your hand, drip the blood over. I don't know, but
that's what I'm thinking. Some kind of blood sacrifice.
Yes. And then ABC was kind enough to release 2 clips from this one.
Yes.
Do you want to talk about them?
So in the first one, it's in present day Storybrooke, and it's between Charming and Snow. And Charming has an object that's like a totem from Maleficent, and it kind of looks like her little orb that she carries on the staff.
Yes.
And they are talking about how Cruella and Ursula want to resurrect Maleficent and how they cannot let that happen because of the secret that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And so they have to try and stop her, or them.
And they want to toss her into the harbor. So they're gonna go look for the ashes and toss the ashes into the harbor.
Yeah.
Because that'll just lead to good luck here on the show.
Oh yeah, I'm sure that won't have any kind of bad repercussions whatsoever. And then the second clip that we got from ABC is in the past, and this takes place during Snow and Charming's honeymoon. So if you remember back to season 3, they went on their honeymoon and they faced down the Medusa monster.
Mm-hmm.
So this, I believe, takes place after Medusa. Snow is still worried about Regina's threat and the dark curse that is coming. So they set off to find something that might help them, and they come across Maleficent.
They went back to their castle.
They went back to the castle, and they come across Maleficent, who Charming faced at the very end of season 1 as a dragon.
Yeah, and pretty much they want to make a deal with the Charmings.
Yeah. So it's not the other way around. It's not the Charmings seeking out the Queens of Darkness, but the Queens of Darkness seem to have sought out the Charmings.
And then it automatically cuts to the Charmings sitting at Granny's.
Yeah.
We got a little bit of fun on that one.
Mm-hmm.
Then we got some wonderful set photos. Charming and Snow in the mines. That didn't really show much, except they had a really big backpack to just go below the town.
Yeah.
Okay, so that wasn't just me. And then we see a lot of the photos were in Regina's office, and it's her spending time with Henry with the book. And we see Pinocchio and Geppetto and Emma. So it looks like they're trying to figure out more about the book.
Yeah. And the question is whether or not young Pinocchio will remember anything.
And is it just me, or does Henry look so much older in these photos?
He looks so old. Jared just like sprung up overnight or something, because he's looking quite old.
Yeah, he's sitting at the desk and he's got his hands folded like he's some big businessman. Like, I looked at these photos, I'm like, isn't he supposed to be in junior high?
Yeah.
Okay, so there's a couple articles. Actually, if you go online, you see there's a lot of articles with Adam and Eddie answering people's questions. And they said at the end of this episode, Rumpel is set on a new quest that he's really energized about. We will get to see Maleficent in full dragon fiery glory.
Mm-hmm.
People were asking about Belle and what's going to be happening with Belle. And she's making it a point to keep the library going and the pawn shop. And she even invites a wonderful new friend to be her guest at the shop.
Yeah, and this is most likely Will Scarlet.
Yes, there's lots out there with the two of them.
Yeah, there have been, when they were filming this episode, there were pictures of Belle and Will together. And in a recent article from TV Line, Adam and Eddie have teased that, you know, Belle is looking to move on, and Will is also looking to move on from whatever happened with Anastasia. So there is a new ship on the horizon, and it's going to be Will and Belle. I don't know how long it'll last, but it does look like they are going full ahead with that one.
To me, it just seems a little odd, but that's just me.
I don't know. I'm torn because on the one hand, I really, really need them to not split up Will and Anastasia, because I ended up loving those two. But at the other time, I'm like, well, you know, I'm not really shipping Rumbelle anymore, so
yeah,
I would be happy if Belle kind of moved on.
Yes. So we did get some fun casting news in the past month since we've been on.
Yeah.
I'm like, how long has it been? It's been like a month. We do have returning as Cora, Barbara Hershey, so that's one of our fun, exciting ones.
Yeah, and she's going to be making an appearance in episode 420, which is quite a bit down the road, we know, but it is exciting.
Yes. And then we have Agnes Bruckner. She's a 3-episode guest arc. There's no other info that was official. If you want to know where she's been lately, she was on Lifetime's Anna Nicole Smith.
I don't think there's much of a doubt as to who she's playing. It was announced that she would be coming right around the time that we got a specific episode title. And based on the episode title and then also how she looks on set, because we have seen photos from her filming in Steveston, I'm going to go ahead and say it. She's Lily. She's an adult Lily. I don't think there's much doubt about it.
Yeah. Going on with episode titles, we got 3 new ones since we've last talked. 418 is Sympathy for the DeVille. It's going to be it is written by David H. Goodman and Jerome Schwartz. So I'm going to guess we learn a bit more about Cruella DeVille.
Yeah. Episode 419, which is the first episode that Agnes Bruckner will be appearing in, is titled Lily and is written by Andrew Chambliss and Dana Horgan.
And then episode 420 is called Mother, and it's written by Jane Espenson. Okay, like I said, we got a lot of interviews with little tidbits and things that are going to be coming up throughout. So I know I have a couple, I know you have a couple, so we can just read some of them off. Just a little bit of spoilery things for you. Like half of these, I don't know when they're going to happen.
Right.
They just say this season. And if I do give you an episode title, people, there are 2 different episode numbers going around for every episode. So it could be the current one we're talking about, or it could be another one. I'm just putting that out there. Episode 14, it looks like we're going to get a flashback of Regina and Maleficent and how they first met and became friends. In 15 is going to have Herc and Ursula, and we'll get to see their past, because they have a past, and it's the origin of Ursula, and it's soul-crushing.
Yeah. It seems like we're going to be getting a look at Hook the Pirate again.
Yes, very piratey, as
very,
they said.
very piratey, and somehow he tangled with Ursula.
420, there's a surprise flashback concerning Regina and Maleficent. And then just some other little things. One of them, they were asking about Henry, and they say Henry might find love. They're not sure if it'll be this season, but there is a junior high dance in his future. I wonder if the fairy godmother will come and do a whole Cinderella type thing. That'd be kind of funny.
That would be cute.
We do learn that characters are able to leave and return to Storybrooke, and there'll be a full episode of Robin Hood in New York City.
Yes.
That just sounds interesting.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I want to see how he handles our world out there.
Yeah, because he's always lived like either in Sherwood Forest or like in Storybrooke, where he could still live like in the forest.
In the woods, yeah.
Yeah. We will meet the author at a certain point, and Adam Horowitz says the identity of who he or she is, maybe what their background is, something we do intend to reveal in the second half of the season, and they make it a major part of the second half of the season.
Yeah.
We will find that out. This half of the season, we get to see Oz, Sherwood Forest, and a few surprises. They wrote there will be a death. They didn't say if it would be a major death or not.
Someone always dies. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
We all know this season is probably going to end with Ursula, Cruella, and Maleficent dying. At least one of them.
Or getting turned into stone, or you know what it means, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we got the episode 420, this made this last little one I'm going to talk about really like stick in my mind. So 420 is called Mother. And then someone asked if we would find out if Regina is pregnant. And Adam and Eddie are pleading the fifth, which means we don't get any information, which they're not denying it, but they're not supporting it.
Right. And that's kind of been a theory now for a while that Regina's going to be pregnant because we've had a 6-week time jump. Someone noted in this past episode being a bit of a finicky eater.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's possible that she's pregnant.
Which would be cute.
It'll be interesting.
Interesting, but it's cute. I mean, it's Robin and I'm sorry. I like that couple. Well, that's all we have for you this week. Check back next week. I'm Hunter. You can follow me on Twitter at Bit of Pixie Dust.
I'm Jacqueline, and you can follow me at punk_bunny_87.
Until next time, Oncers.
That's our show. Thank you for joining us. Have a good night.